All right, James White on his recent Dividing Line program. Why I will still vote against Marxists. That's what we're talking about here. Voting in the United States of America. Let's listen.
Getting things done. Anyway, I said it from the beginning. We'll skip past all of the little chitter chatter and get to the key issue to start things off. A lot of discussion online right now about voting and the Christian conscience. And very little of it is about voting for the Marxists. If you vote for Marxists, you are voting for your own enslavement. You're voting to enslave. You're voting to close your church, enslave you and your families, your children, your grandchildren, and to enshrine Darwinian secular humanism as the religion of the state. Now, it already is in many ways.
All right, so voting for Marxists is a bad thing. Indeed, but what about voting for papists? Papists, of course, vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance is a papist. Here is an article from Slate. Never heard of it. This just came up, so I saw the title, so I clicked on it. Molly Olmstead. But notice this. J.D. Vance used to be an atheist. What he believes now is telling. He's not an evangelical Christian. Notice this. He's a Catholic. A Catholic. What does that mean? He is a Catholic. Of course, evangelical Christians, if they're Trinitarians, are Catholic. Okay? They're Catholic. Here's the 1689 Baptist Confession of Faith, chapter 26 of the Church. Paragraph 1. The Catholic or universal church, which, with respect to the internal work of the Spirit and truth of grace, may be called invisible, consists of the whole number of the elect that have been, are, or shall be gathered into one under Christ, the head thereof. Speaking of Christ as the head of the Catholic or universal church. Notice, it will go on to say, neither can the Pope of Rome ever be the head thereof, but is that Antichrist, that man of sin, son of perdition, who sits in the church claiming himself to be God. This is saying, nope, it's Christ who is the head of the church. And is the spouse, the body, the fullness of him that fills all in all. That is, he is the bridegroom. The church, the Catholic or universal church, is the bride. That's how Scripture, the analogy Scripture gives with respect to the relationship between Christ and his church. Catholic or universal church. So, he's a Roman. If you want to say Roman Catholic, that would be better. It would be better to say he's a Romanist, or even better, he's a papist. He's not an evangelical Christian. He is a papist. He has a king with the pointy hat, what sits on his throne in Rome. So unless he obeys the biblical mandate in Revelation chapter 18, verse 4, to come out of her, my people, be not partakers of her sins. If he doesn't come out of her, then he is partaking in her sins. Okay? So that's what you won't hear from Dr. James White. Instead, I still won't vote. I'll still vote against Marxists. But no mention of the papists here in this. So why voting ultimately is a sham in the USA. Here's why. Because we have 538 electoral votes. That's all we get. This number should be 5,538, not 538. And it's because of the number one number here. 435 members of the House of Representatives. That should be 5,435. Senators, yes, 100, that's it. And then Washington, D.C. gets 3 electoral votes. They shouldn't get any. So it's the 538 electoral votes is dependent on the 435 for the House 100 for Senate, that's 535, plus Washington, D.C. gets 3, and they shouldn't get any. So we should take away their 3 and add a 5,000 to the 435 number, which would bring this electoral number, 538, to 5,535 votes. Anyone living in Washington, D.C. should vote in either a Maryland or a Virginia congressional district because Washington, D.C. is not a state. The USA has a population of about 335 million. I've seen the number 333 million. Suffice to say that the number of the members of the House of Representatives, which is our largest representative body in the United States, as a, quote, representative republic, is way too few. Way too few. 435 members of the House is not nearly sufficient for a country that is the third most populous nation on the planet. That is the United States. The third most populous nation on the planet. India is number 1, China number 2. 335 divided by just 435 members of the House of Representatives, that's 1 representative for every roughly 770,000 people. So 1 member of the House for every 770,000 people. Again, that's absurd. That is absurd. That is not representation. That's oligarchy. This is not what the Founding Fathers had in mind when they wrote this in the Constitution. Quote, the number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000. What is it? 1 for every roughly 770,000? Yeah, we have strayed from the Constitution and the spirit of the Constitution in Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3. The spirit of this language in the Constitution is that as population would grow, so would the number of members of the House of Representatives grow commensurate with the population growth. Once again, in a representative republic, it is of utmost importance that the people be represented sufficiently. So why is the number of the members of the House of Representatives only 435? Answer, the Reapportionment Act of 1929. The Reapportionment Act of 1929 is actually based on the 1910-1911 census numbers. And it did this. It set it's called the Reapportionment Act of 1929, also known as the Permanent Apportionment Act. Combined Census Bill enacted, established a permanent method. A constant 435 seats. So in 1929, when the population was around 122 million, it was 435 members of the House. And today, when it's about 330 million, almost, approaching triple the population of 1929, the number of seats is still 435. A constant 435. Population in 1929, 122 million. Now it's nearly triple, but we have no more members of the House of Representatives representing us. Based on this, is it now fair to say that the USA, a country that was once a representative republic, has in fact become an oligarchy, ruled by a few? In other words, we, the people of the USA, are woefully underrepresented in our own federal government. And then, of course, the rock the vote nonsense propaganda slogan from the 80s and 90s, like, your vote matters. Well, nope, it doesn't. All you have to do is take the population of the United States and divide it by 538, and then you would have roughly 1 electoral vote for every 613,000 people. 1 electoral vote for every 613,000 people. That's not a representative republic. That's an oligarchy. That's an oligarchy. So that's voting in the United States. And I think that's all I wanted to talk about on this video. Voting. Oh, voting to close your churches. He said voting to, right here.
Darwinian.
Wait.
Your children, you're voting for your own enslavement. You're voting.
Okay, wait.
Very little of it is about voting for the Marxists. Oh,
and by the way, I'm not endorsing the commies either. The socialist commies. Socialism and communism are synonymous terms. Socialism is the societal or social ownership of the means of production. Communism is the communal or community ownership of the means of production. And of course, all the social, and so they're synonymous terms. They mean the same thing. No, I'm not advocating for that at all. I'm saying that we need, what Dr. James is talking about are symptoms of the disease, symptoms of the problem. He's not talking about the real problem. And I would say that the Reapportionment Act, this is a real problem. To set the number of the members of the House of Representatives at a constant 435 is absolutely opposed to the spirit of the Constitution. This needs to be repealed, and we need to add about 5,000 more members of the U.S. House of Representatives to our federal government. And yes, we can support them all. Yes, we can. We have the money to do that. It's not a money issue. It's not a money issue. It's having adequate representation for the population that your country has. And the United States has about 335 million. 435 seats is way too few. This is ridiculously, absurdly, obscenely small. So that's my whole point in this particular section here, what Dr. James is talking about. He's going to talk about some other things as well. Maybe I'll get into that. Oh, this isn't an eschatology issue. Well, yes, it is. It very much is. But if you're a high partial preterist / post-millennialist, yeah, you don't really need to worry about any of this stuff. It's just whatever. It doesn't have anything to do with eschatology. Absolutely fallacious. It does have something to do with Bible prophecy. We're going to talk about that next time. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is voting a sham in the United States? Why voting for president of the USA is a sham? That's what I say. Is it or is it not? I gave the evidence. Let me know what you think. Talk to you soon. Soli Deo Gloria.